Hello, in the Good Company podcast. Anna Malus Kitzman here, coming to you from a new studio. Do you see it? If you're watching YouTube, you will see it. Costa Rica. I think it's like Costa Rica, or I would say like Hawaii. I thought, why not? I saw this background when I logged in to Google Meet, and I was like, why not to come to you today from my future office in Costa Rica? Oh my God, that would be amazing. I hope you love it. I love it. Coming back after a break with a weekly dose of inspiration, motivation, thought provocation, all with the goal and intention to have both of you and me more fulfilling, more aligned lives. Sometimes I have guests. Always find somebody that inspires me, intrigues my thought process. That does something that is changing the world, I think, for better, or create people who create conscious businesses. This week we are doing solo again. And the break was because I needed a break. I had a couple episodes that I wasn't fully happy with. I didn't think that they were like fully marinated. And at first I thought, oh my God, let me put, just like majority of other podcast people do, put an older episode just to fill the space. But then I remember how important, and we talked about it a few episodes back, and I can link this episode, how important taking a break is, how important is being in silence and not constantly consuming. And I actually thought, well, I am not going to do it like majority of people. If you want to find me and my podcast, you will, or you need to, you will. And I'm just going to be quiet for 2 weeks and not have podcast and have break for myself and for you. Break perfectly collaborated with my spiral down energetical situation that was caused by recent election Polish president. Unfortunately, a similar story like here in United States. And it really, really took me to the darker place. I consciously went there. I allowed myself to spend some time in bed and numb myself a little bit with true crime documentaries that just always gives me this feeling of there's always a justice. And look, people are doing such a shitty things to each other, so what would you expect from election? And people believing, people who create chaos and taking advantage under the umbrella of creating greater, better country or good. And it just was really triggering for me, this whole election in Poland, and this final result, because I really felt like I'm reliving my personal life on like a bigger stage. Like, how cannot people not see through this manipulation? How people cannot see through this chaos, this pretend idea of greater good creation, this manipulation of information. And I just yet again got stuck in this why, which is my pattern from the past. And then I was like, okay, just like I learn now, I want to understand it. I need to respect it, accept it, because that's the democracy, right? And then I need to go back to my work and focus on me, focus on my community, focus on bringing something different to this world, something opposite. And building from there. And thinking about why, and getting stuck there in any situation we have, why. It's kind of like this victim mentality, and won't get me anywhere. So we are back at it, back in work. Let's talk about marriage today. Such a light subject. So this subject came to me as, to be honest, I am struggling in my own marriage, and I'm thinking about it a lot. We are married for 13 years, and it's a struggle for a while now. And I know I don't want to talk about details, because obviously it's not only my place to do so. Obviously, my husband is aware that I will mention it. I am not going to mention the details, again, out of respect to him and to our relationship. But I want to share it with you, because I think a lot of us sometimes struggle in long relationship. and it's a very embarrassing thing. It's a very shameful thing. It's very I think hard to talk to other people, and we often, I feel like, struggle in silence. And I just want to tell you that you are not alone. That my life is not that perfect. It's close to it. And if you are struggling, I'm struggling with you, and I'm just trying to figure out. So knowing me, my curiosity, Gemini curiosity, first thing I did thinking about marriage is I wanted to go back and kind of understand, like, basic points of history when it comes to institution, how the institution of marriage came about, what was it about initially throughout our history. And it was so eye-opening and so interesting, because I feel like the intention and the history of how something is coming about will be carried through energetically and through patterns throughout its existence. You can see it when it comes to, like, history of certain countries, history of certain religions or religious group, that this pattern will be repeating itself, or will be like a, I don't know how to explain it, like a subconscious foundation for whatever it is, right? If it's a country, if it's an institution like marriage, if it's a religion or a religious group. I hope you understand what I'm saying, that, like, how something came about, this initial intention, this initial history of this coming to be, is going to be carried through energetically, and also we will be like a, really, I think, hard to change. And marriage actually is a fantastic example of it. So let's look. Thank you for ChatGPT. And I love that. It's the best thing besides my ChatGPT assistant, who's checking my spelling and my grammar all the time. You're welcome. Now all my posts and all my writing are without misspellings and grammatical errors, because I'm asking always ChatGPT, hey, can you check it for me without changing the tone, without changing my style, without changing my thought process and thinking in the whatever I am sharing, whatever text I wrote. So you're welcome. And I think ChatGPT is amazing in, like, pulling this, like, a small research points, right? Like, I don't have time nor that much interest in marriage to dive deep and read 10, 20 books about it, but I wanted to understand just a frame of it. So let's start with a little bit history. So the earliest marriage, believe it or not, was registered in 2350 before Jesus, in Mesopotamia. And first marriages were obviously contracts to unite families for economical and political reasons. No surprise there. No, not love included. Women will often treated as property. When it comes to Greek and Rome's, marriage served as to legitimize hires and secure alliances. Women had little to say, patriarchal control was strong, and love was secondary or irrelevant. When it comes to 1st to 5th century, a biblical and religious influence, Christianity began to defining marriage as a sacred union. Church control increased, promoting the idea of female submission to male headship. Moving on to 5th to 15th century, marriages were often arranged by families, especially among the elite. Love was romanticized in literature, but discouraged in marriage decisions, I'm sorry, and probably discussions too. Moving on to 16th, 18th century, the church and state used marriage to control sexuality, inheritance, and morality. In some cultures, interfaith and interracial marriages were banned or punished. Colonial and slave era in 17th and 19th century, enslaved people were denied legal marriage. Indigenous traditions were erased. Marriage laws often reinforced white supremacy and patriarchy. Early 20th, industrial revolutions in 19th century. Hold on, I need to stay on this call. Industrial Revolution, 19th century, the middle class ideal of nuclear family grew. Women were still largely financially dependent, and legal rights in marriage were minimal. Early 20th century, women began fighting for in marriage for their rights, like property or divorce. Still, social pressure and legal system often trap people in abusive and unwanted unions. Last but not least, late 20th century, divorce became accessible. Feminism challenged traditional roles. LGBTQ people began demanding rights to marry amid backlash and discrimination. 21st century to present, marriage equality expanded in many countries, but cultural, religious, and legal pressures still intimidate people, especially women, LGBTQ plus individuals, and those from conservative and traditional backgrounds. So here it is. A little short history of marriage for you and me. And it's just really, when I read it, I was like, oh my God, what a shitty background foundation for this institution we have, and how much it's still alive. Like, even in my marriage in some level, right? Even because of abilities for my husband to provide more and make more money, or kind of pressure, social pressure from my family. We had situation a few years ago, and I literally was like, my voice was like diminished and was not took to consideration by her family, because my husband did this and this, whatever. I can, again, I don't want to go to details, but it was just like, it brought it to me. I was like, oh my God, it's 2000, what is it, 25. And I'm still living some of this core. Obviously they are not as intense, they are not as strong, but they're still coming through these patterns, right? Like the situation very vaguely I described to you. So this is a very interesting thing, was to understand it and be aware of, right? I don't think so now, when I know what marriage is and how it works, and what it entitles, how much work it really is to be in any long-lasting relationship with any kind of person, marriage or not. And knowing this history, not from like standpoint of like a crazy feminist, angry feminist, but I don't think so I would get married. I really don't. I think I wanted to get married because I think, when you are younger, there's this societal pressure, and this societal, like, ingrained in us women, wanting to be claimed, wanting to belong, want to be selected by a man in that capacity. Even engagement, when you think about it, like, he proposes to you, right? Like, you are chosen by this guy. And I think I wanted it, like, and I understand a lot of young women who want that, who have this pattern and this idea so much ingrained in them, that this man is like, okay, there's this union and it won't break, and he's with me forever and ever. But is it not going to break? Obviously not. It's going to hit the uphill for sure. This is not first uphill in my marriage. We went through a really difficult time when Senna was initially diagnosed, and it was very stressful for all of us and to our relationship, right? And that's what I'm talking about, this really intense work that nobody talked to you about, when it comes to marriage and long lasting relationship with somebody. And you can also apply it, to friendship, but I think just marriage is so much more complicated, right? Like, how to keep up the intimacy, the sex, the connection. We all grow separately in this relationship, and how to keep aligned and be aligned in this relationship, as we progress in time, right? So freaking difficult, and we like romanticize this getting married and beautiful fairy tale and the happy ever after, but after is freaking so freaking hard. right? Do you feel that? Do you sometimes feel that, how hard it is after? So being honest, I now would not get married. I feel like, I don't know where my relationship's going to end up. Nobody knows where their relationship's going to end up, right? My father suddenly died when he was 50. Um, and, uh, and, but I know that, if I would, um, be open to the another relationship, for example, I would not want to get married. I would love to live separately and just date, like I had this amazing godmother and my uncle, grand uncle, and they were like in 80s and 90s. It was so inappropriate in Poland. It was so like not talked about, but it was their second relationship. They were both divorced and they got together, and they never got married. They never, until last few years when they got really old in their 80s, I think, they moved together. But before that, they have separate homes. They just traveled together, went for dinners, and just spent time together, as it was like constant dating. And I was like, I remember how like inappropriate it was at that time in Poland, like 80s and 90s. Like nobody in the family talked about it. But now I'm like, oh my God, they were up to something. Like a constant dating, you know what I mean? Like separate homes, just travel together, go for dinners, and have like life like this. I think this is kind of the future. One thing that I think is really important to also highlight, and I'm thinking about again, and it's just the thinking I'm inviting to, because I think we're living in this amazing times when we are redefining stereotypes, patterns. We are healing, we are growing, we are really expanding on certain societal also ideas, which is the most amazing thing to do. And like we have such a capacity to do it, and we are really free to do it. This social pressure is so much less. Like I think on some level, some people in my family married initially because that's what was, kind of put on them, right? Like you go to school, you grow up, you go to school, you get married, you have kids. That was just this pattern. Now I love spending time with my friends who don't have kids, because thank God we don't talk about kids that I think about 24/7, my kids. So now I meet somebody that I don't have to talk about my kids all the time. And they actually made choices. A lot of them made conscious choices. We don't want to have kids. We don't want to have this type of family and relationship. We are, and I so much respect it, and I so much admire it. And I think it's just such an important decisions that they are making, because they are redefining a family, redefining relationship, redefining marriage, redefining the purpose of marriage. I think it's just so important. And that's why, not being an expert, not being a, full intellectual, just, I think like hold this podcast is also invitation to critically thinking for yourself and redefining things for yourself. I love, and Adam talks to me about it all the time. He's like, our relationship is it does not have to look like anybody else. Um, we can define it and create it for ourselves, by ourselves, right? I love that. And also this whole idea of marriage came to me recently even further, because I don't know if you heard, one of the spiritual leaders that I personally don't resonate with, never did, came across this name. But initially I have just energy vibes, and I'm like, are we vibing or not? And if we don't, there's 8 billion people in this world, so we don't have to. But Aubrey Marcus was mentioning on his podcast that, whatever higher voice or higher spirit told him that he needs to have kids with 2 women, his beloved wife and his beloved other woman that he opened their relationship to. Like I think he's known from having open relationships. But I was thinking about it in this context, and experiencing some of stuff myself. It's not like I'm not speaking from experience, again, not going to from privacy reason to details. I don't think so we are made for polygamy. I think somebody is going to be hurt in larger group like that. Always, it's not possible to love 2 people at the same time with the same capacity and I personally don't. And he's mentioning that the spirit told him to have this kid with these two women. Is just like, for me, it's just such a like trigger of a cult, and like such a red flag. um and of course, like, what if woman, like, what if I came and I was like, spirit came to me and told me that I have to now be in a relationship if with 2 3 husbands, you know what I mean? Like, I would be a slut. Literally. But it was just like, for me, so interesting to see, and thinking about this idea of polygamy. Again, I personally don't think so we are wired like this, but that also made me think, I don't think so we are wired for one gigantic relationship. We glorified this idea of, oh my God, you're 50 years together. Amazing. That's so fantastic. No, tell me, in this 50 years, how many years were juicy? How many years were good? How many years you really love each other? You created, you were in your flow, in your you're allowing yourself to grow, etc. Like, 50 years mean nothing if we don't know how the 50 years was. You know what I mean? So I think we should stop glorifying the quantity of the relationship or the length of it, but really the quality of it. And sometimes people get together, create beautiful things for years, beautiful family, beautiful kids, and then it's time for them to go apart. And I think, this the importance of taking the stigma down from divorce. Like, I think nobody ever gets together to get divorced or get split apart, right? I think getting apart is so difficult. I witnessed several friends who went through that experience, and it's such a grief for the person who is actually participating in it, that having additional societal pressure of, oh my God, divorcee, like, it's so bad, it's just like something we can't talk about or whatnot. It's so pointless, and so just unnecessary heaviness that we create, and unnecessary, like, a block, and unnecessary, I don't even know what. And I think the stigma of divorce is also somewhere came about with the specific purpose. When you think about it, like, how difficult is to divorce, or to get a divorce. Like, getting married is like this, like, license, you go to the court and you're done. But getting divorced, that's a completely different story, which is also very, very interesting. So I don't think so we are built for polygamy. I don't think so we are also built for long, long, long relationship. I think we are, and some people do. I don't think so it applies to everybody, but I think the majority of us, even looking at the rates of the divorces, which is like 30-40% right now in states, looking at the amount of affairs that is happening, that there is this need of experience somebody else or something else, right? Like, I don't know. I just feel like, again, I think that there is this element of us needing multiple partners, not at once, in our life. That's my idea. I'm wondering what you are thinking. What are you thinking about marriage in the context, even the history we shared? What do you think about long-lasting relationships, the polygamy, right? Aubrey Marcus. Oh my God, when I was watching this podcast, I hope nobody ever is going to have this feeling, but I was just so, not triggered, but it was just like, my whole body response was like, BS, no. You know what I mean? I hope never anybody will have response, like visceral response like this to what I'm saying. Or if they do, I hope I will be able to come back later and correct myself. I think there's nothing wrong about it. And it's just like, I love sometimes listening or thinking about things I believed or thought about previously, and how my thinking adjusted, even about marriage, right? Like, when I was getting married, I was just so excited. If somebody had this conversation with me like this and brought this questions and these thoughts I have right now, I would be like, I wasn't even like open or in any capacity to open my mind to those. But I think We need to start thinking about it. We need to start thinking about it, how we are redefining a lot of things, and including the institution of marriage. So I hope you enjoyed this one. After a break, coming in strong with a marriage conversation. Let me just think if I talked about everything. History of marriage, we talk about redefining. We slightly touch about my marriage. Um, let's see. Let's see what happens, right? We can just try for the best. And that's it for today. Should we do an ad? Please go plant a tree to have one tree planted. My favorite organization. I did a little research through ChatGPT and I asked if 50% of population on this earth did three things to improve climate situation with our nature and climate, what would these three things be? I like simple solutions. And one of was solar and alternative energy sources, using them. Second one was minimizing consumption of meat, lowering, minimizing, and going, vegetable route. And the last one was reforestation. So please go to one tree planted. They really do an amazing job. You can plant trees all over the world. One tree costs $1, so you don't have to spend a lot. You can set it up as a monthly donation, like we do in our family. We plant trees every month, and it's just such an amazing feeling, and it's such a great organization, because they really, when you go to their website, they really break out how much of this $1 goes to tree transportation, planting, labor, and anything else, and what is kept by them, which is like a minimal amount of like 10% from this dollar, or even 5% from this dollar. So great organization. Plant some trees, generate some good karma for yourself. And that's it for this ad. Until the next time, love, light, and shadow. And that's it.